I wanted to have a differentiation of seasons, so you could see the transition through the course of the year in terms of how we relate to the landscapes. So I started in August 2007, just on my own, doing the odd journey, and then decided that I really needed to actually make it quite a continuous trip. And because I've got a wife and child, it seemed to make sense that we all go on this journey together. So bought this motorhome and journeyed for 6 months, circumnavigating England, and we're all kind of completely self-sufficient. So there was a cooker, fridge, the shower, toilets. We could both sleep in here, and also, as you can see, I could use the roof as my consistent vantage point over the landscapes that I was photographing. Photographers love kit, and I have quite a lot of kit, and it's kind of nothing like being able to carry it all in your own little home and having that mobility just to kind of pull over. We were always able to entertain others and entertain our daughter while I was up on the roof photographing. Sarah could be entertaining Jemima. It was really dramatic, waking up in the morning and just opening the curtain and looking out over the Northumbrian coastline, or these kind of open fields of Oxfordshire, and it was that kind of privacy when there's just the three of us and this incredible backdrop, which you see in the evening when you go to bed, and then you wake up and it's completely transformed in the morning, and there's this idea that it was just us experiencing it. Well, I think was very special. For me, in terms of the kind of personal pilgrimage, it was fascinating exploring places that I'd never been before, so discovering parts of England that I didn't know, as well as returning to places that I went to as a child, taking my own child. So that's the interesting kind of the way that you pass on these experiences through generations. The Tandridge golf course picture, when we happened to be on Oxted, which is where I grew up, and it was the one day of snow, and so I went up to the golf course where we used to toboggan as children, and my daughter was with it. So there I was taking this picture of this landscape of things that I used to do as a child, and my daughter was there building snowman, doing her own activity. So it was interesting kind of how these things pass on. It was a really rewarding experience, but there's no doubt it was very tough going. However, I've always worked in a very intense way. I like producing work in a fixed period of time, but on a journey. I mean, I really like the idea of a journey as a metaphor to produce work, much rather than me going off for a weekend and then coming back and then going off and coming back. It breaks the rhythm, and I think you just get into a way of working, and it is tough. But I think to break that rhythm, I think, would affect the work. And also the thing about being on a continuous journey is that there's stuff that you just come across that you would never expect. Because the way that I'm photographing it, the people are relatively small in the frame, so there isn't really a focus on an individual. It is much more of a kind of panorama, if you like, of an event. A lot of the time, it is slightly a strange perspective within which you're looking at the picture. So when you first look at it, there's a kind of question mark as to how exactly that was taken, because often it was actually quite high up, because I'm stood on the top of a motorhome overlooking the scene, if you like. And I think that's quite unique to that kind of gaze, to my kind of photographic gaze, if you like, throughout the work. When you print at this size, what I really like is the fact that when you're stood at a certain distance from the print, it reveals all these elements which you wouldn't necessarily see in the book or as a small picture. So, for example, when I was taking the picture, I was thinking about how I was going to frame the scene, and it was very kind of claustrophobic in terms of the numbers of people. So I had to think carefully about how I was going to frame it. So, the focusing of the framing was actually this corner here, because what I wanted was to provide something which took you into the picture. So here you've kind of got this couple, and she's kind of arching inwards, and it's kind of mirrored by the guy's Mohican. So that kind of leads you into the picture. So here, this is where the kind of focus comes. And in terms of what moment to actually take the picture, I was trying to, in such a crowded scene, you need to find an element of a moment, if you like. So for me, the moment was here when these two characters both put their hands on their bellies, which I kind of just really like, this idea of this bloke kind of, just holding his bare chest. And then the kind of richness comes in things like the number of people that are wearing their socks. I mean, I just love this guy here with these kind of dirty grey socks on, or the girl here with these kind of green cyan coloured socks. And then you pick up other things like the fact there's a couple here with a huge package of Walker's crisps, but there's only 2 of them, and yet they've got 20 bags of crisps. And then the barbecues, people kind of what they're eating, they're carrying their beer cans, the plethora of tents on the beach, which you can see here. And there's all these kind of things that you suddenly start understanding about people's relationship with the place, with one another. When you understand more about the place, it helps read the picture. So, for example, this was actually, these were old gravel pits, which were, for 60 years, gravel was excavated from this area to help build the houses around Cirencester. And then, once all the gravel had been excavated, they then flooded these kind of pits, these open pits, with water. So now this landscape, which used to be a place of work, has now become a contemporary place of leisure, which I find very interesting.